Shalom and Brucha. We're going to learn today a Sefas Emes, Parshas Devarim. First, a bit of an explanation. Chazal sometimes express themselves through the medium of Agadata. That is, it's a parable, metaphor, analogy used to present their ideas, their rotzen. So the messages that such Agadatas convey are not always obvious at first sight. Accordingly, too often we tell ourselves that the ideas being presented are probably marginal, they're not that important. And with this excuse, we don't make an effort to necessarily penetrate the code of the metaphor within which the message is being expressed. So by contrast, and we've learned quite a bit already, the Sefas Emes always brings down Midrash. And when he encounters a difficult piece of Agadata, he insists that the statement must make sense. Accordingly, he takes the time and the effort necessary to understand each of these Agadatas, each of these pieces. So here we're going to see two examples that illustrate how the Sefas Emes has this approach. These examples also demonstrate the potential benefits that we could all gain if we take Chazal's words seriously, rather than just in yeshiva, the well-trodden path to say, let's skip the Agadata. Let's just get okay. So let's see what's happening here. The first case, go to the Sefas Emes. He says a Maimah, the year 5634. This discourse is directly relevant to the 9 days and to Tisha B'Av. Thus, the Maimah's second paragraph starts by telling us Kol Doyer, each generation. Now, what does that mean? That is, any generation, Kol Doyer, any generation in which the Beis HaMikdash is not rebuilt, is at the same low spiritual level as the generation which, unfortunately, the Chorban Beis HaMikdash happened, right? So taken seriously, this is a very puzzling statement. In fact, the Sefas Emes himself says he expresses his puzzlement. He notes that there were many generations after the Chorban in which exceedingly worthy and pious people lived. So how could you say that every generation that didn't see the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash is as bad as that particular generation that had the Chorban? We know many generations that there were tremendous people alive doing wonderful things. So Sefas Emes asks, can we honestly say of those generations that they too merited the Chorban in their days? So Chazal's statement, just quoted, also leads the Sefas Emes to ask another basic kasha. Do we truly expect that a generation will emerge that will be so virtuous that it will, on its own merit, bring the Geula Shlema? That no earlier generation deserved it, just this one generation? So asking questions enables the Sefas Emes to find answers. So the answers that his kasha, his inquiry, yields enable him to open startling new perspectives on some very basic issues of what Jews believe. Indeed, he brings new light even on some familiar topics that we may have thought we already understood thoroughly. So thus the Sefas Emes explains that the Geula, the redemption, will not come from the achievements of one single generation. Rather, the redemption, the Geula, will come as a result of a cumulative process in which the spiritual achievements of each generation builds up and adds to those that happened before. So we keep adding on until we will reach the tipping point where the Mashiach will be able to come. This cumulative process will continue until the world reaches the target level of Kedusha that Hashem specifies. Thus, every generation that adds spirituality to the world by bringing illumination, by bringing light to where there is darkness, participates in rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. So each generation rebuilds the Beis Hamikdash a bit, by bringing Torah, by doing mitzvahs. Turns out then that the Jewish people have been rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash throughout the entire duration of the Golus. Furthermore, we can be rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash right now. Just sitting and learning, just talking, especially now when there's so much difficulty in this world. So the Sefas Emes notes that in our daily davening, we refer to this explicitly. We say it by benching and by Shemona Esrei. How? We speak of Hashem as a Bonei Yerushalayim, he who builds Yerushalayim. Kaviyuch Davish is the Bonei Yerushalayim. Now, both in Tehillim and in the Siddur, the word Bonei is written with a tzarai. This vowelation, don't forget in Lashon Kodesh, the smallest change of a vowel changes the whole aspect of the word. So this particular understanding of the word makes the word into a verb rather than a noun. Moreover, this is a verb in the present tense, thus telling us that it's happening now, that we can make it happen now. So the Bonei is the ongoing work of creating and building the Beis Hamikdash in each generation and every Jew. So far, following the text of Chazal, Kol Dor, that's what the Sefas Emes started with, and it says Kol Dor, each generation, or all generations. So the Sefas Emes has been speaking in terms of generations. That is, Klal Yisrael as a collective group can be rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash, even at this very moment. Now the Sefas Emes veers a bit to the side, and he brings an added powerful dimension to the whole discussion. He tells us that the same process also operates at the level of the individual. V'chol adam bifrat. All people are involved. Each one of us is rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. Thus, the Sefas Emes reminds us of a tremendous responsibility, a cosmic significance in all our actions. Every person can, with his or her individual deeds, can also rebuild the Beis Hamikdash right now. Because we don't know when that place is or that time is. Right? We're all here for a tikkun. The tikkun is to bring the Mashiach, to make the world whole. So each one of us has our place and our part to play. So we're a chaylik of the Bonei Yerushalayim. So the Sefas Emes has been speaking about building the Beis Hamikdash. He continues now with this theme as he concludes this paragraph with a quote from Chazal. Chazal tells us everyone can, may, should help build the king's palace. So we all have an achayas to rebuild the base of Mikdash. So as we know, Sefer Devarim begins in a surprising way with a list of geographical sites. So Rashi speaks about this, and everyone else asks. Rashi follows a Chazal in reading the place names in Devarim as a veiled rebuke. That is, they see Moshe as mentioning these sites to rebuke, to give Musa to Bnei Yisrael for their avirus that they had committed at these places. Thus, the reference to a place named Dai Zahav is in reality a rebuke, Musa Shmuz, to Bnei Yisrael for the avira of the Egel Zahav, right? This understanding, this taich, this interpretation seems very easy to, we can handle this, we can carry this. It's very straightforward. However, considering the Agalita sufficiently, right, and thinking it through, important to understand that we have to understand everything in it, the Sefas Emes now reacts with tremendous kasha. He asks, what is the point of rebuking, of giving Musa to Bnei Yisrael of that generation, the generation in Devarim? That generation was about to enter Eretz Yisrael. They had no shachas with those sins that he's reminding them of. Those avayas had been committed by the previous generation, not by the people who are going into Eretz Yisrael. He's giving a drosha to the children of those who have done the sin. So Sefas Emes answers, astounding, that every generation begins life bearing the burden of the previous generations of idols. In other words, that which has not been fulfilled. We have it upon us. We carry this with us. And for this reason, every generation has the responsibility to correct the tikkun, to correct those avodas that happened previously, and to find their own tikkun. Thus, it's just as there's schus of us, that we benefit from the schus of our forefathers, so too there's chet of us, the avodas, that the previous generations pass on to succeeding generations. I would venture to say, the voyage, because we haven't fulfilled the totality of rebuilding the base of Mikdash, that in itself is the weight we have to carry. Now, note how neatly this comes. The Sefas Emes fits with with common sense, right? Because Sefas Emes was talking to Klal Yisrael Dike Yidden, Stam Boile Yidden, and he explains deeply a nagarita that otherwise might have been put to the side. So take a moment and think about this question, and you will reach the same conclusions. In fact, we do start life with both assets and with liabilities. And indeed, we have to carry the burden of the entire generation previous also. In name schus, if we are aware, if we keep ourselves focused, we will be zocher to be that doya that culminates and finishes the tremendous work of rebuilding the base of Mikdash. I heard of my side before I leave, someone that the Klosenberger Rebbe was by a tish. There's a Oskishliken that he sees that the base of Mikdash, the third base of Mikdash, is finished and it's ready. The only thing that's missing is the peroiches, the covering on the ark. So one of the Chassidim said, Rebbe, why don't you just go up and fix that? Put up the Rebbe can the Chaldas, the Rebbe could do anything. So put on that peroiches. The Heilige closed him again, Rebbe. Says you're gonna lie. That's Chugeriefen. And he said, I've done it. I've taken it. I've put on the new peroiches. And the Yetzer Hara and the anger from the Welt and all the tzor keeps ripping it away, keeps taking it off. We should be zoiche. Tonight is the Yortzeit from the Baruch Rab Shlomo. Because you're going to learn, I had the schiyah to be by him many times. And I had the schus to share some of his holy space. And you could see the whole essence of the man was just to rebuild and to create so that the Mashiach should come. Let us all be zoiche to finish the job of those big tzaddikim who came out of the Mechumah with just one prayer, one hope. We should rebuild the base of Mikdash B'Kula. Oh my.